Baby gorilla screams every time she's touched. The reason left the keepers amazed. The air in the primate wing usually smelled of damp earth and sweet fruit, but that morning it smelled like an agonizing mystery. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day Emily Donovan preferred, with the gray sky hanging low over the city and the rhythmic, hypnotic drumming of rain against the skylights of the Regenstein Center creating a heavy atmospheric hush. Inside, the chaotic symphony of the zoo had been replaced by a sound that made everyone's skin crawl, a piercing, glass-shattering scream that echoed off the concrete walls and seemed to vibrate in the very marrow of the keeper's bones. Zola, the newest infant in the troop, wasn't clinging to her mother in the usual secure fashion of a primate newborn. Instead, she was huddled in a nest of straw, trembling. Every time a keeper, or even her own mother, Maya, tried to offer a comforting nudge or a grooming stroke, the baby gorilla let out a shriek of pure, unadulterated terror. When the keepers finally discovered the physical truth behind her cries, the reason left them absolutely amazed and in floods of tears. What happens when a baby gorilla develops a phobia of the very thing she needs to survive, the touch of her own mother? We expected a standard case of infant colic, a minor bruise, or perhaps a difficult temperament when Zola started screaming today. Instead, we uncovered a hidden sensory miracle that challenges everything we know about primate neurology, maternal bonds, and the will to survive. Watch how this tiny gorilla's untouchable status led to a discovery that left the entire zoo in tears. Before we dive into this incredible, heart-wrenching story of survival, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to keep sharing these powerful stories of the unbreakable bonds of the animal kingdom. Ring that bell so you never miss an update. Emily had been a lead zookeeper for nearly 5 years, and she had seen just about everything. She knew the distinct personalities of every ape in her care better than she knew some of her own cousins. She knew that Kobe, the soulful, gentle patriarch, was watching the situation with a heavy, furrowed brow, his jagged scar on his left palm visible as he gripped the climbing ropes in a state of visible distress. Kobe was a leader who led with empathy, and seeing the youngest member of his troop in such agony was clearly taking a toll on him. But Zola was the center of the storm. The air grew heavy, charged with a static that made the hair on Emily's arms stand up. Every time Zola's mother Maya reached out with a gentle, leathery hand to groom the infant, Zola would recoil with a violent shudder, her dark, soulful eyes wide with a fear that seemed to vibrate through her tiny, pot-bellied frame. It started with a sound, not just the screaming, but a strange, high-pitched whirring noise Zola made when she was left completely alone. Emily had been in the back enrichment room, preparing burlap sacks filled with wood wool and raisins when the monitors picked up the distress. Maya, usually a patient and attentive mother, was becoming visibly agitated and confused. She didn't understand why her baby was rejecting the very tactile comfort that defines a gorilla's infancy. In the wild, a gorilla that cannot be carried is a gorilla that cannot survive. The palpable tension in the enclosure was reaching a dangerous breaking point. "James, we have to pull her. Maya is getting frustrated, and Zola is becoming lethargic from the sheer stress of the constant screaming," Emily shouted into her radio, her voice steady but tight with an underlying dread. James, the head keeper, responded from the observation deck with equal urgency. "I'm opening the shifting chute now. Get Dr. Williams ready in the clinic. This isn't behavioral, Emily. This is something deep, something internal." As Emily reached for the infant through the shifting bars, Zola let out a scream so primal and jagged it felt like a physical blow to Emily's chest. But once Emily managed to scoop her up, using heavy gloves that she would later regret, the infant went into a state of controlled chaos, thrashing with a strength that belied her size until she was placed on the cold, sterile exam table of the clinic. The room, usually quiet and orderly on a rainy Tuesday, became a hive of frantic activity. Dr. Williams arrived, his face grim as he observed the trembling infant from a distance before approaching. "Her respiration is through the roof," he noted, his voice tight. He took a stopwatch and counted for 15 seconds, his brow deepening with concern. "She's hyper-responsive to every tactile stimulus. Even the slight air current from the HVAC vents seems to cause her physical pain." They began a full neurological and cardiovascular workup, and the diagnosis that emerged from the data was something Dr. Williams had only read about in rare medical journals: allodynia. It was a rare neurological condition where the brain misinterprets non-painful sensations, like the brush of fur or a gentle touch, as intense, burning, or stabbing pain. "Can we save her? How do you raise a gorilla that can't be held?" Emily asked, her voice cracking as tears blurred her vision. Through the clinic window, she could see Kobe and Maya sitting together at the glass, their dark, soulful eyes fixed on the exam table. They looked like statues of grief. "We have to find the trigger," Dr. Williams said. Usually, this neurological sensitivity is a symptom of a deeper cardiovascular imbalance. The nerves are firing because the blood flow is irregular. They ran an ultrasound of her tiny heart, and the green line on the monitor flickered wildly, dancing in a terrifying, erratic pattern. "She's in atrial fibrillation," Dr. Williams barked, the clinical calm in his voice replaced by a sharp urgency. "The chronic, unrelenting stress of the pain has put her heart into a quivering state. Her heart isn't pumping, it's just vibrating. Her blood pressure is tanking. James, get the digoxin and the lidocaine immediately." Suddenly, the monitor wailed a flatline, a long, piercing tone that filled the room. The world seemed to stop. The only sound left was the rhythmic, indifferent drumming of the rain against the roof. Emily felt the world go cold. She looked at Zola's tiny, leathery knuckles and realized with a crushing weight that the infant was dying because she was too afraid to be comforted by the world around her. Dr. Williams didn't hesitate. He applied the miniature paddles to the infant's chest. Clear. Zola's tiny body arched under the current. Beep, beep. The rhythm returned. It was weak, stuttering, but it was there. "She's back," Dr. Williams exhaled, a bead of sweat rolling down his temple. But then they saw it. As Zola stabilized and began to wake, her hand brushed against a piece of soft, discarded fleece from a keeper's jacket that had been left on the corner of the table. She didn't scream, she didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned her cheek into the soft fabric, let out a tiny sigh, and fell into a deep, exhausted sleep. The reason that left the keepers amazed was that Zola wasn't untouchable. She was specifically sensitive. Her allodynia was being triggered by the coarse, wiry, and oily texture of natural gorilla fur, which felt like needles or sandpaper to her hypersensitized nerves. But the soft, uniform, synthetic fibers of the fleece felt like a soothing balm. The amazed realization hit Emily like a lightning bolt. Zola didn't hate her mother. She just couldn't feel her mother's love through the barrier of her own biology. Zola needed a sensory bridge to learn how to be a gorilla. The recovery was a roller coaster of emotional and technical breakthroughs. For the next 3 weeks, Emily practically lived in the clinic. She designed a specialized soft suit for Zola made of ultra-fine silk and high-grade fleece. Every day, Emily would wear a similar fabric, allowing the infant to cling to her and feel the warmth of a heartbeat without the accompanying fire of nerve pain. They had to hide Zola's heart medications in tiny drops of sweetened formula, feeding her by hand as her heart rhythm slowly stabilized from the quivering mess of the past into a steady, triumphant, and healthy beat. As Zola grew stronger, the team began the difficult process of sensory desensitization. They would slowly introduce small patches of natural fiber into her environment, rewarding her with her favorite mashed sweet potatoes whenever she touched them without distress. Emily watched as the infant's brain began to remap itself, learning that not all textures were enemies. But the true test would be the reunion with Maya. A gorilla's life is defined by the hug, the constant physical contact between mother and child. Without it, Zola would never be truly integrated into the troop. The most emotional moment came exactly a month after the initial crisis. The rain was falling again, a soft, melodic tapping on the skylights that felt like a blessing rather than a shroud. It was time for the reunion. Emily had spent all night crafting a mother vest for Maya out of the same soft, silk-lined fleece that Zola loved. As Maya was guided into the chute and allowed the keepers to fasten the vest, looking almost like a protective armor of maternal love, she reached out for her daughter through the bars. Zola hesitated, her dark eyes searching Maya's face with a profound, quiet intelligence. Slowly, the infant reached out and touched the soft fabric on her mother's chest. No scream came. No shriek of pain echoed through the wing. Instead, Zola let out a soft, satisfied grunt, climbed into Maya's lap, and buried her face in the fleece. Maya wrapped her massive arms around her baby, her eyes closing as she let out a rumble of contentment that vibrated through the floor. Kobe approached the glass, pressing his scarred palm against the window, his soulful eyes shimmering with what looked like pure, liquid relief. The desolate refuge of the clinic was gone. The family was finally whole. Emily realized then that she hadn't just solved a medical mystery, she had witnessed a mother's willingness to change her very nature, to wear a human-made skin just to hold her child. As the sun began to break through the gray Tuesday clouds, casting long, golden shadows across the fresh straw of the enclosure, Emily watched the three of them, Kobe, Maya, and the now peaceful Zola, huddled together in a pile of shaggy fur and soft fleece. The chaotic symphony of the troop was back in harmony, and the silence of the screaming had been replaced by the steady, rhythmic, and beautiful purr of a baby who finally felt safe in her mother's arms. The zoo staff stood in the observation gallery, many of them openly weeping, as they realized that sometimes the greatest miracles are the ones that allow us to simply touch the ones we love. If you enjoyed this emotional journey of discovery and the incredible bond of this gorilla family, please don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps us share these stories of animal empathy and the miracles of nature with the world. And if you want to see more heartwarming rescues and animal reunions, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video as we continue to explore the unbreakable bonds of the animal kingdom.